there's one thing you don't want to be at the ongoing development camp in Cranberry, it's a grizzled veteran, meaning of that particular process. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Coming your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Owen Pickering was the Penguins' first-round pick in 2022. He wowed absolutely nobody at the time. Ron Hextall had some people scratching their heads, not too much, and not like it was a scandalous selection or whatever, but it just wasn't going to be one of those where you go, oh, here it comes. Here's the next generation of Penguins. Really? A stay-at-home defenseman? Well, Pickering's altered some of that perception over the years, particularly the stay-at-home part. He's quite comfortable carrying the puck, owning the puck, really, at times, including heading into the attacking zone. And this past season in the WHL, he put up 7 goals and 39 assists in 59 games. That was with the Swift Current team. And that's not going to translate. That's not going to be a ratio that follows him. It's just that he's a big dude who's really rangy and who really stays on the puck once he gets it. But then I'm talking about somebody who's now 20 years old, just having played in junior hockey. And that's what's going to come to an end here. He has to be at Wilkes-Barre this winter, and he has to become what his original label was, which is more of a defensive type defenseman. Yeah, who can get around. Yeah, who can contribute. Yeah, who can play modern hockey from a defensive standpoint, but really who can take care of his own end. And to that end, he's started to fill out, I guess you could say finally, since it's taken him a while. He's 6'5", but he's not the skinny little Winnipeg boy anymore. Winnipeg farm boy, I should say. He and his family live about 10 miles south of the city in Manitoba. He says he's added about a dozen pounds since the end of the last season. He's up to 200. That hardly makes him some kind of, Brooks Orpik monster or whatever, but he can hold his own a lot better. Here's what he had to say on that subject over the weekend to reporters in Cranberry.
I think obviously I'm just trying to get stronger, more explosive, but I've put on some weight. Now it's just about maturing my game to the pro level. It's a step. Obviously, I learned that a couple of years ago. I was a lot skinnier when I played in the A a couple of years ago and a lot less mature. So I feel like I'm more ready for pro hockey now, and I think they're kind of echoing that.
This is a good thing. If I sound like I'm a little bit down on the pick, I'm really just reliving some of the original sentiment when he was drafted, because I think everybody at the time, myself included, was looking for skill. Wow, there's a first round pick. They can finally get some skill that can ultimately succeed the older guys who are in Pittsburgh. It didn't happen. It didn't feel like a position of need, meaning left defense, which really isn't a position of need anywhere. Right defense is everywhere. But if you think about it right now, if you think about it from looking at the current roster, the current depth chart, whether it's for the coming season or the season after that in Pittsburgh, yeah, you could use some left D. Let's not forget that there's some uncertainty over there. Marcus Pettersson is not signed to an extension. Marcus is entering his final year. Ryan Graves, we don't know if he can play ice hockey. I don't mean to be mean, but he's a really, really nice kid, but that was a really, really rough first season in Pittsburgh. He's signed for a lot of years. He's going to have to be here for a lot of years, but you don't know that he can get it done. And after that, as we just saw, Kyle Dubas himself acknowledging the need on left defense, because that was who he went out and got 100 of, including, and notably, Matt Grzelcyk from the Bruins. Sebastian Aho, the other one from the Islanders. Guys like that. Depth guys. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season. From Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today, or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet online, where the game starts. But I'll tell you what, I mean, the one thing that I really like about this kid, and the thing that has me the highest on him, in addition to the obvious, which is the size, you can't manufacture that. You want your defenseman ideally to be bigger, in addition to all the other traits that are needed. Now, really, really smart. It reminds me of a young Brian Dumoulin in that regard. Dumo has really always thought the game at a high level, and he impressed everybody with his skating and his own ability to get the puck out of the defensive zone. But this was someone who was operating off of a really, really high hockey IQ. Pickering, as he and I have joked about more than once in the past, being the son of a school teacher, that was his mom's job in Manitoba, is outrageously well-spoken. Maybe you picked up on that in that audio. Well, he sounded like that when he was 18 at his draft, and I remember remarking something to that effect back to him, and he just went, "Oh, thank you." Like almost like in a broadcaster type voice. Look, I'm not getting into whether or not he'd be able to contribute this fall. He needs a season in the AHL. Almost all defensemen do. That was something that I learned first with the Orpik example back when he was drafted. All kinds of things are going to get exposed about your game in the pros as a defenseman. And you want those, you need those to happen in the minors. Mostly positional, mostly choices. He has a full year, Pickering does, to figure all that stuff out down there and come up and make a real impact next summer at the next training camp. When we come back, J1Q. Yesterday, we kind of flipped the script on the J1Q segment here, and I asked you, why is it that hockey fans seem to be the most gullible, and I say this lovingly, believe it or not, of all sports fans when it comes to just fabricated stuff? Trade this, trade that, fake name here, fake team there. And what I got back from you was pretty impressive. I'm just going to read three of these here. Jerry says, "Hi, DK. I speculate the reason why many hockey fans buy into false media reports about players, trades, etc. is because they assume that these insider reports come from knowledgeable, credible sources. In all sports, fans are excited and anxious to learn about their team's players and eager to hear about transactions. But in the other major North American sports, you don't usually have the outright fabricated stories that you were referencing in the Tuesday Daily Shot. As a result, fans who are starving for news about their team and may not know about the practice of media sources in Canada, it's not just Canada, by the way, Jerry, but continuing your thing here, to completely fabricate hockey stories, they become consumers of these false narratives. I assume it's maddening to have to address questions based on other less professional media outlets reporting, but in some ways they might serve you well because they provide a stark contrast to the content that you provide at DK Pittsburgh Sports. That's really nice, Jerry. It's also unfortunately accurate. It's really annoying. The next one comes from William, who says, "It was a great question, DK, one I think about a lot. I'm currently a Pittsburgh transplant living in the hockey dead zone of Louisville, Kentucky. So most coverage I get is national/league-wide. I've noticed two things as it relates to the league-wide coverage. First, you've mentioned Elliot Friedman and how he'll cover up his lack of concrete knowledge about a specific topic with dodgy and deceptive wording, such as, 'I wouldn't be surprised if,' or 'signs seem to be pointing toward.' When somebody that highly regarded talks that way constantly, it sure makes it a lot easier for hockey news with multiple Z's to use the same language and lack of sources and be taken credibly. Second, I've noticed that these reports get legitimate talk time from larger personalities, like, for example, NHL Network Radio on Sirius XM. They won't quote the source, and they'll lead by saying, quote, this will never happen, end quote, but then they'll talk about it for 10 to 20 minutes. Hockey media tends to be like that Dumb and Dumber quote through and through. Quote, so you're telling me there's a chance. That's really good, actually, end quote. And the last one, I love this because it comes from north of the border, is from Michael. He says, hi, DK. As a Canadian, I cringe every time you start talking about some of these Canadian quirks, like media rumors, the Wayne Gretzky devotion, etc., even though I completely agree with you. So here's my theory. The average American sports fan follows baseball, football, and basketball. The average Canadian sports fan only follows hockey. Therefore, for half the year, for a Canadian sports fan, you have to fill it with some sort of fun. Hence the online rumors. You know what? I can't put it any better than that. I really can't. And I do want to stress, though, I poked this into this segment earlier into Jerry's response, but it's not just Canada. It happens everywhere. It happens in Pittsburgh. It happened yesterday in Pittsburgh, where stuff just gets completely made up and it ends up taking on a life of its own. And it gets repeated on the radio, gets repeated on social. And then people come to us like, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? I don't know. I got work to do. In this case, it's completely untrue. But I'm in Milwaukee covering a baseball series. I have my own work to do. I don't need to be fact-checking others. All I wish out of this scenario is that consumers of this sort of thing in general would be just a little bit more discerning. I appreciate all of the feedback, and there was a lot more than these three. And I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.